we sent this massive armada and air force over to the Persian Gulf, biggest since '03, not because of something Israel is going to do, but because this is important national security interest of the United States.
Rich Lowry is editor-in-chief of the National Review, and I'm very proud to say that he has been a frequent and much appreciated guest on the Michael Medved Show. He is the author of books like Lincoln Unbound, which remains indelible and important, The Case for Nationalism, and legacy, paying for the price for the Clinton years. We now have questions about paying the price in many levels of currency for the Trump second term, which we're in the middle of. Before we start with Rich Lowry, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Michael Medved Official, and then continue the conversation there. Now, Rich Lowry, you have written a very powerful and important and relevant column that asks the question, did the U.S. get pushed into this war by the nation of Israel? Is there any basis for thinking that that is true? And if not, as I believe, if not, then what do we do to correct that misimpression?
Yeah, so this is based in part on something Marco Rubio said at a press conference that was distorted in real time, and he corrected in real time. He was talking about the timing of the operation. We all know in June, Midnight Hammer, Israel had been engaged in the 12-day war for days prior to us joining in. So Rubio is saying the timing here, we wanted to go simultaneously because if Israel moved and we hadn't moved, our forces are going to be hit anyway, and they'd be more vulnerable if we hadn't started at the outset as well and made this as big and robust as possible. And that became, well, look, Bibi Netanyahu has led Donald Trump by the nose into this war. We had no choice. We were forced into it by Israel. That's not what Rubio meant. He corrected it in real time. He addressed it the next day. Trump was asked about it, whether Bibi forced his hand, and Trump in typical manner said, no, I think I forced his hand. But obviously, we sent this massive armada and air force over to the Persian Gulf, biggest since '03, not because of something Israel is going to do, but because this is important national security interest of the United States. And Donald Trump is quite committed to making sure this regime does not get a nuclear weapon. But there's so many people out there, not just on the left now, but on the right as well, that want to blame Israel first.
Okay, one of the people who wants to rebut that notion is Bernard-Henri Lévy, who is a leading conservative French intellectual who has called the notion that a small country of 9 million people, the size of New Jersey, the idea that a country like that can push the United States into anything is absurd. Other than that argument, just the discrepancy between America's world-leading power and Israel's situation, aside from that discrepancy, is there other reasons to believe that actually this is not a conspiratorial plan of any kind, but the notion of two nations with very comparable and compatible interests?
Yeah, well, Donald Trump's just had a hyperactive foreign policy in his second term. He decapitated the Venezuelan regime, went and got Maduro. Did Israel force him to do that? Seems likely he's going to try to topple the Castroite regime in Cuba. Are the Jews behind that too? So this is just where he is. Now, this is a much bigger operation, but you can go back to 1980 and find Trump saying during the hostage crisis, we should go hit them. And then he says, by the way, if we did, we'd be an oil-rich country. So he was already thinking of taking other people's oil 40 or 50 years ago. He said over and over again, we can smash them to smithereens. They'll never be able to get a nuke. And I do think the administration's exaggerated the imminence of this threat prior to the war, but there's no doubt they're reconstituting. And the worry was if they had a couple more years to really build up the missile force and the drone force, then it would be impossible to do anything. We see how hard it is now, even with Iran having a relatively depleted missile and drone force.
Do you think that President Trump was unaware of the risks to the international oil supply, or that any of his advisors warned him that the price of gas was almost surely going to go up as a consequence of this war?
I think they were aware of it, but they discounted it. And I think they have been caught by surprise the way Iran has been able to cut off the Strait of Hormuz, and not by sending the Navy there. We've sunk the Navy, but just if you just threaten people with droning them, tankers, if just tankers think there's any possible threat of getting hit by munitions, they're not going to go through and they're not going to be able to get insurance. So that's why, I think this is going to be a bigger deal than Trump probably thought going in. And I think the optimistic case the Israelis and the Americans were probably thinking of is you get Khamenei on the first day and it's over, and the regime falls, and that hasn't been the case.
What happens? How do we get out of this war with success and with actually making the United States and the world safer? How do we bring this to a successful conclusion?
Well, I think you got to reopen the strait because you don't want the message to be sent that Iran just has the ability to close it whenever it wants, and you need to eliminate, as much as you can of the nuclear, the missile capability, the drone capability, and the IRGC's capability. I think we've made major steps in that direction, but there's more to do. But I don't think you're going to change the regime. At least it doesn't seem likely. And it feels to me as if there is a change in the regime, it'll be 6 months after this, where there's a popular revolt or something of that nature. But this regime that's quite entrenched, even if its popular support is 80-20 against, the 20% have the guns, have demonstrated within very, very recent memory in Iran that they're willing to use them. So if they thought just you cut off the head of the snake and everyone rises up, that wasn't going to happen.
On another subject, talking about the head of the snake, um, you have recently written a column about Kristi Noem riding off into the sunset. Is she going to be joined by her friend Pam Bondi at some point?
I don't know. Both were selected for similar reasons. Telegenic, like going on cable TV, extremely loyal to the president of the United States. I think Kristi Noem is getting a bad rap to this extent. It's not as though she was freelancing on the way she was handling immigration. That's what she was getting told by the White House to do. Now, I think she was ridiculous and incompetent on top of that, and maybe even corrupt, or people around her were. So I think it's a very good thing that she's gone. But I'm not sure. It took a lot for Trump to axe her, and I'm not sure Pam Bondi is close to that line yet.
Okay, Pam Bondi hasn't put together any expensive advertisements for hundreds of millions of
Not
dollars
that I'm aware. We haven't seen Pam
about her
Bondi
role in
riding on
the.
any horses in a big ad campaign yet.
Yeah, and again, one of the stories is that this apparently is trying to give energy to her presidential possibilities in the future. You think there's any presidential possibilities for Kristi Noem
No,
in 2028 or 2032?
no, no, absolutely not. That's a pipe dream, but it's the kind of pipe dream you have when,
Well,
you're a
Democrats
politician. A
do.
lot of politicians have national ambitions, and then you have people around you who it's to their benefit to uh, reinforce your delusion, and I think that's what was happening.
Your best guess as to the most likely Democrat to run against J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio next time in 2028?
If I had to bet, I'd bet the field over Gavin Newsom, but I think Gavin Newsom has the highest odds of any individual candidate. I think it'll probably be someone else, but he has a higher odds than any other Democratic candidate.
Okay, I mean, he is governor of California. Uh, do you think he is vulnerable for people saying, "Look at the taxes in California, look at the homelessness, look at the other problems the state is experiencing"?
Completely. I mean, the message that Democrats have hit on quite powerfully last year is affordability. And on every single metric in that regard, California is an utter disaster. And it's not things that happen to Newsom. Sometimes you inherit a bad situation or have bad luck. It's all the result of deliberate policies. And you've seen even center left publications pointing out this is a problem for Newsom, including the Atlantic.
Pieces by Rich Lowry are posted at our website at michaelmedved.com. you can be notified automatically and for free about any of these interviews or interactions that we have and post from time to time at Michael Medved Official by subscribing to our YouTube channel.